Hey, what's up? It's Tuesday. I'm Jim here, the last remaining rough cut, as far as I know at least. And today I'm going to talk about the film Over the Edge, which is a 1979 teen drama, I guess. A bunch of teens who hang out in this new community called New Granada. They have a rec center, but not much else. They're kind of like little ruffians. They talk like they're like 30s gangsters. They're always like smoking weed and drinking beers and staying out too late and like breaking into houses. They're just like little terrors, basically. And these are all kids that are under 15, like young teens. And you know, the cops are really after them. And then slowly the cops go, much like the movie, over the edge and start persecuting them a lot because they're trying to get new people interested in buying land there. And every time they do, you know, the kids get out of control because they want to shut down the rec center. And they're like, we don't want to, don't shut down the rec center. We're going to mess up your car and all this stuff. And so eventually the kids, they then in turn go over the edge in anger over many, you know, over a lot of different things, but they come and take over the school. This film has the first appearance ever by Matt Dillon, who actually plays like the cool, rebellious kind of James Dean character in the film. I've heard of this movie for a long time in the 90s and you couldn't really find it, and it was a big influence on the Smells Like Teen Spirit music video that Nirvana made. Apparently Kurt Cobain's a huge fan of it, and after seeing it I can definitely see why. I think if I was a teenager I would just think this is like one of the greatest things I'd ever seen, and I am far too old for it, but I think if you are like, you know, 14 or 15, you like need to see Over the Edge like right now. It's a pretty daring, violent teen movie, and it actually is like pretty cool to watch. It reminded me of being a teen, like wanting to kind of like piss off, you know, the local like citizens patrol. I never got caught like these kids though, but these kids had like real cops they're going after, and they really like fucking with the cops. Like they don't like the cops. I like how anti-authority it is. I think that's like one of the coolest things about it. It does remind me of things like Rebel Without a Cause. They hang out in an abandoned building just like in Rebel Without a Cause, and definitely reminds me of 30s movies. I kind of like its depiction of suburban teen life because it's at least, I mean, even though it does have this weird like ironic melodramatic edge to it, it does take me back to like, you know, hating how like there's all these rules and you just want to rebel. Apparently it was actually banned from theaters shortly after it was released because they thought it would start riots from kids. I mean, you know, they always think stuff like that's gonna happen. Apparently this kind of thing really happened where, I mean, the kids like take over this school during like this parental meeting and they like trash the place. I just saw Moonrise Kingdom and now I saw this, and it's like movies from the perspective of kids. You really get into like this world of that certain age group, and like Over the Edge is like if I was 14, man. I feel like all the parents just talk like bland, like parental figures, like they're like, no, we're doing this to protect you, you better, you know, blah, blah, blah. And all they talk about is like interest rates and stuff. They just like totally just talk like absolute adults, which I thought was really funny. It's like a weird little 70s cult movie. It slightly reminds me of The Warriors in that it's very kind of cartoonish and melodramatic, and it's not very realistic, but at the same time it feels very real, and it's not too outlandish that it's not believable. There's a lot of like cult movies that I can never find for years and years and years, and I wait to see it, and then you see it and you're like, oh, this is what I waited for. This is really disappointing, you know? And then you think about, well, in theory it sounded like a good idea, and in theory Over the Edge sounds like a cool idea, and in actuality it is a cool movie. It's from 1979. It's got a really good soundtrack. Not just the actual score, but the pop soundtrack is just as good, and I think it's really good at establishing all these kids as just normal 70s teens. It kind of reminds me of stuff like even from the 30s, like Wild Boys of the Road. It just kind of encapsulates teen rebellion. Over the Edge is the awesome cult movie that I should have seen years ago, and if you haven't seen it and you like kind of cool 70s cult movies, I think it's like an absolute classic. So if you have seen Over the Edge and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments. Subscribe to The Rough Cuts if you haven't already. Subscribe to my main channel in the info box below. Follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, and potentially VHX. And follow Earl Barrett Holloway's Tumblr, who does the picture at the beginning and the end of this video. And that's it. Alright, I will hopefully be here next week. Maybe other people will be here in between, or maybe not. At this point, I don't think they will, but, you know, you never know. I feel like I'm like the last guy. I'm like, I went to a party, and And like I went to the bathroom and people were here, and then I got out of the bathroom and no one was here, but I'm kind of like, yeah, but you guys left all the food and I'm really hungry, so I'm just kind of chilling out watching their free HBO or something.